did say you.
To unveil the Hall of Fame room. So I want to begin by thanking everybody for coming out tonight as part of our very special Hall of Fame weekend. It's our first year. I thought it was important to share the mission of the Hall of Fame. The Dalton CRA Athletic Hall of Fame is organized as a way to maintain the rich heritage and tradition of our successful athletic programs within the town of Dalton and its surrounding towns. The Hall of Fame will serve as a means of recognizing, preserving, and honoring individuals who made significant contributions to our athletic programs. The Hall of Fame honors the contributions and accomplishments of these individuals who are worthy of recognition as examples for others to emulate. All proceeds of the Hall of Fame will be used to help fund financial assistance for our youth sports programs. Falling in line with that mission, the Executive Committee, who I'd like to recognize for all their hard work, Gary Campbell Jr., Pat West, Jackie McLaughlin, and Joanne Dowling, who worked alongside me to make sure that this vision became a reality. With the vision, we wanted to create a permanent home in our community, one that we can share the great stories and ensure that future generations know about our great athletes, great teams, coaches, and contributors that have helped to create the foundation of our athletic programs. And in doing so, raise funds from the Hall of Fame to keep sports affordable for the youth in our community and be able to provide more scholarships for families in our community. I'm very happy to stand here today and be able to say that we reached our first goal, that's this weekend. It was a grassroots effort, and like everything else in this community, when we met a challenge, we took it on head on. There's more to do, and we're going to continue to raise funds to ensure that each and every year we can run this Hall of Fame the same way we ran it this year. Today we're going to open the Hall of Fame room, and we're going to celebrate the accomplishments of the past. But prior to doing that, I would like to acknowledge our story of the year. Each year, the Hall of Fame committee will select and honor an individual or team with the story of the year. The CRA and the Central Berkshire Regional School District have always kind of been trailblazers when it came to adaptive programs. As reported in May 15, 1969 in the Dalton News Record, Archie DeAngelis, the CRA director at the time, Norman Carmel, the special education director, and Dennis Duquette, the elementary school supervisor, had a vision of collaborating and coming up with adaptive programs of bowling and swimming at the CRA. Over 30 years later, Dan McMahon and Aaron Robb started a home run baseball program, swimming program, and dance program. And this past year, we added a unified middle school basketball program. We stand here 50 years after the article was written, and it's only fitting that Wacona High School continues to raise the bar. Today they have 2 unified sports programs, track and field and basketball. And this evening we're going to recognize our unified track and field team, which was crowned last spring the Massachusetts State champions. So I present to you our state champion, unified track and field.
Thank you.
Ready? Good. 1, 2, 3. Very good. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
State champions. Jerseys for Coach Paul and Coach Prasad. Okay, as we prepare to head into the Hall of Fame room for the first time, there are a few people I'd like to thank. I'd like to start by thanking all of our sponsors, the businesses, community members, and our inductees that helped out with sponsoring the Hall of Fame. I'd also like to thank our 4 major sponsors, David and Susan Lombard, the W. Mary Crane trustees, the Feigenbaum Foundation, and Helen and Michael Caulfield for their very generous donations to help us get this off the ground. Lastly, I'd like to thank the contractors that helped make this room possible. As I mentioned earlier, it was very important to us to have a physical Hall of Fame. We did not want it to live on a website. We did not want it as a banner in a gym. We wanted a place young people could come and see where it all began. So Baroli Builders, Crozier Electric, BB&E Office Interiors, B&B Painting, and Gingras Glass, thank you very much. Also want to mention that I'd like to thank Eric Peason, our facilities manager, who made this all possible and helped that whole project along, so thank you to Eric. Tonight, when we go through the Hall of Fame room, we're going to head through, and when you're done, you can head over to the Kittredge House. We have some appetizers, and Kelly's Package Store has generously donated drinks for the evening, an opportunity for you all to have time together as fellow inductees. I'd like to thank Kelly's Package Store, Ozzy's Steak and Eggs, Dalton Restaurant, as well as thank Dalton Community Television for filming tonight for us so that we have something to always remember this night when we opened the Hall of Fame. I also want to take a moment and thank our event committee who has put in a ton of time to make this weekend possible. So thank you to Jen Belcher, Wendy Dumas, Sue Morrison, Greg and Lynn Berry, and Mary Manella. Thank you to our event committee. 1 year ago, we had a vision for what we wanted to accomplish. The committee made that a reality today, each and every one of them, the nomination executive committee and event committee. I thank you all. I also thank the trustees who gave us the green light to make this possible as well. Not only did they help financially, but they helped along the way and encouraged us to keep moving. Dave Lombard was a great support to our executive committee as well, and I'd like to thank Dave for all of his help. The Board of Governors, and of course Allison Peters, our executive director, for their support. Thank you to everybody. I know that you all want to thank you. You go ahead. You go. I know that we all want to look around here, there's about 120 people or so that are going to want to make their way through the room tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys, we're going to line up to go into the room, and when we do, just please bear in mind that we have a lot of people that want to get through, and I want to make sure people have time to head over to the Kittredge House. When you get over there, there's an opportunity upstairs in one of the rooms upstairs. Coach Campbell's going to be up there, and the opportunity to share your story. One of your favorite memories of growing up in the community, playing sports in Dalton. And Coach Campbell will be doing that upstairs. If anybody can join him, that would be wonderful. Again, that'll be filmed by Dalton Cable, and we can have that as a memory. After that, at 7 o'clock tonight over at the Stationery Factory, we have Sliding Back to Home. I'd like to thank Larry Moore and Baseball in the Berkshires for all their help with that program. So that's going to be a great program talking about the history of baseball in our community and each of our inductees' role in baseball in our community, as well as see our Major League stars from our own hometown here. We'll be offering autographs for everybody in the public. It's free admission, and that's open to everybody. So that should be a great time tonight at the Stationery. Lastly, before we go in, my final thank you is the most important. It's to you, the inductees. Thank you for sharing your stories and sharing your memorabilia, joining us this weekend and being a part of this. It's about you and it's for you. So without further ado, we are going to head in to the Hall of Fame for the first time.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. How are you doing?
Who's going to rip off the sign, Dustin?
Four of them. Take a corner. Get that coming balloon off.
Come on in here.
Jim, Dan, Turk, Jeff.
Grab a corner.
You don't
In
mind?
there to take the sign off the Hall of
Come
Fame.
on over.
Grab a corner. We got
Grab a corner.
Turk, come on, man. Grab a corner. Right here. How many sound you have?
Lead us
Go ahead.
Lead us in.
Open that door. I got you.
All right, Jeff, show us the way, buddy. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go to the right. Go to the right, Jeff. Let me see if I can get Alex. Coach.
Amherst College. I faced you a few times. That's my freshman year. Yeah. No, I wasn't good enough to get in the game. The best story I got is that I was a first base coach, and my buddy Tom Burke got a line drive off you up the middle.
Yeah.
And you looked over at me and like, who in the hell is that guy? That was good.
Let me see if I can get Alex.
Too smart TV is right.
Hello, this is Gary Campbell. I'm the executive committee of the CRA Hall of Fame. I'm sitting here with Hall of Famer Jeff Reardon. Great to have you here, Jeff. Today we're just going to talk about some of the things that you remember here growing up in Dalton, Pine Grove Park. You're inducted into the first class of the Hall of Fame with great people all around you. I'm going to ask you flat out, do you remember ever signing my autograph to little Gary at the Legion? I just wanted to throw that out there right now.
Oh yeah, I remember like it was yesterday.
I was always little Gary, which I was pretty much fine because I still can't take my dad, and I'm going to stay with it right now. But long story short, Jeff, what kind of environment was it for you to grow up here, and how did that help you later years into your baseball Hall of Fame career?
Well, it was a great environment to grow up in. We all we did is play baseball and other sports, and we even had things like one street against another street, over in what do they call our area? The Flats?
The Flats.
Well, I never knew that. I guess I'm too old. You hear that one? Me and you lived in the Flats, me and Daddy Duquette. So, you know, and he used to play, and we'd go over behind Craneville. And we would play, you know, and when we weren't on a team, we'd play games every day. It was great. You know, I loved it. So, and like you talk about Pine Grove Park, I lived there, you know. I mean, I didn't play basketball in high school, but if it wasn't baseball, we were over there playing basketball, or, you know, I used to watch the softball, fast pitch, you know, and any baseball game when I was a little kid. So it was great growing up in Dalton. You know, it gave us something to do.
Yeah, it seems to be a common thread for everybody that's walked up here and has talked a little bit, was that competitive spirit of Dalton. Whether it was a small town spirit thing, or was it a park thing, was it a neighborhood thing, or was it you just wanted to beat somebody, you know, from another part of town, or even Pittsfield High. You can extend it there and go further. Where did that competitiveness come from?
You know, it's instilled in you as a kid. I remember in Little League, you know, whenever we'd find out we were playing Greenwich Park Blue, and I usually would pitch the big games. I knew I was going to face Jerry Erb. Jerry Erb was a great pitcher, played in the minor league, so it was very competitive. But, you know, I was psyched I'm going to pitch against Jerry Erb. You know, I heard about him even back then, and I'm sure he heard about me. So the competitiveness started, you know, when I was, you know, 8 years old. I was, you know, pitching, you know, all this soft pitch and coach pitch. I don't agree with this stuff anymore. You know, I think they should start playing against each other when they're young. So that's where all the competitiveness started. And of course it continued in high school. I mean, you know, like us against St. Joe's. I remember the great pitchers, Bill Madden signed, Russ Quetty, Rick Lisi. You know, those were, you know, and Danny was on my team. Those were great games. You know, we were psyched, and we had good teams. We won like Western Mass, but they always gave us a good game. So, you know, it was, to me, it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Was growing up here. Back then there was, you know, no drugs. I'm not saying there's drugs now, but, you know, it was a different day. Everybody played. I look at my field, the Jeff Reardon field, the Legion. They don't even use the Little League field. You know, and I feel bad because I'll go up to Legion when I come home, see a couple guys that I know in the bar, and look at the field. I'm like, what a shame. And he said, they don't even use that anymore. And then we played Legion ball there. That's got grass growing on it. And they haven't used that in years, but now some adult baseball league is playing there. At least they're using it.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, we had baseball all the time. I don't understand why it went down the tubes when you had all us guys, Wendell, myself, Danny, his brother, being in the front office. This should have inspired them so much. These guys are from Dalton. You know, and
I think that's where we're going with this Hall of Fame, certainly as the kids walk through and the story of Dalton comes through.
You're right. And I think this will help kids if they see that all of us were from Dalton. Because, you know, a lot of it's technology. They're on their phones. They're on their computers. You know, and I hate that with kids. Get out and play sports. I never did drugs in my life. You know, and if you're not playing sports, I think you're going to run into some kind of trouble. Not everyone, of course. Not everyone can play sports. Not everyone's that good.
Right.
But I mean, at least try it, you know?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Last question. So when you were younger, you talked about some of the people you competed against. How about even more history? Were there older guys than you that you looked up to and you wanted to emulate and you said, hey, that guy was something and I wanted to be something like that?
Yes, I remember the guys ahead of me, because I loved baseball as a kid, like for Wacona, like a Fran Murawski, Gary Campbell was a good pitcher. You know, I used to like look up to those guys. You know, and they never got the chance. That just happens. But you know, I looked up to them thinking they were great. You know, and it made me want to be a pitcher and a good pitcher. So these kids need something to look up to.
Jeff, you are a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Thank you.
And we are fired up that you're back here and humbled that you're back here and excited to start a new chapter in Dalton. And that's what this is. honoring history, but to be honest with you, we want to move forward. We want to get the future of the kids going forward again, and this is a big part of it. I appreciate you coming back.
Oh, no problem. This means a lot to me, this Hall of Fame. I mean, yeah, I wanted to make the big Hall of Fame, but actually this means more to me because I grew up here, you know, and yeah, I didn't make the big Hall of Fame, but I don't care. I am very proud to be part of this.
Thank
Right.
you. Gary Campbell here with the Dalton CRA Hall of Famer Turk Wendell. And what we're doing here today is to share a story. So Turk, a native of Dalton, Massachusetts, and a major leaguer and a proud warrior, I know. What do you think? How do you feel coming back to town? And
it's awesome to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time. I personally don't really feel that I'm worthy to be in this class with so many great players and athletes and everything that they've attributed to everything in the area and sports and stuff. I feel very humbled to be part of it.
that's awesome. And does it amaze you how many people from this small town have done such extraordinary things in their lives athletically and beyond?
Yeah, it's crazy, especially with baseball too.
Yeah.
And I remember Peter Gammons, who's a big sports writer for the Boston Globe, said, "What's in the water in the Berkshires?" It's just this little town, little niches of the Northeast. Where are they getting all these players from?
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Dig deep back. What motivated you as a young person to strive towards that and to bring your talents so far out of that?
I don't know why I was so focused as I was. Sometimes I look back and go, "What was wrong with me?" But there was nothing that was going to get in my way. Some of my fondest childhood memories were a huge tribute to the Crane family that used to have park leaders in the parks. I don't know if they still have that when you were a kid.
Yes, they did.
And, I mean, that's what you look forward to in the summertime. No one, I mean, you had a park leader and they were there from 9 in the morning till noon, and then every night from 6 to 8, and they had all these different events, and you played wiffle ball non-stop.
Yep.
You played kickball, and then you played against other parks and
Yes.
different sports and floor hockey, and the list goes on. And then at night they had a hobo stew night. Everyone brought a can of something, and they put it in one big pot. And
Probably stole out of Museums and then
Yeah.
get out to Chamberlain Park.
bring your dog or pet to the field, to the park, and everybody got a ribbon, whether your dog was the fattest dog, the smallest dog, the curliest haired dog, or whatever. And it was just, I mean, you look back on those things now, and I wish that they could still carry on that tradition, because and you had the friendships that you had, but nowadays kids aren't outside playing like they used to be.
No, they aren't.
They're inside playing video games, and it's too hot outside or whatever it is. You know, when I was a kid, my mom was like, "Get your ass outside."
Yeah, don't come back until
the only time dinner's ready.
And that's it.
You go in, I gotta go again.
But I think that's a big picture I can see of you and all these people downstairs is the glove on the bike handlebars.
Oh yeah, I was fortunate that I could just walk across the street at Greenwich Park.
Yeah.
And I remember that when I was as old as I could, my parents would cross me every time there was a team practicing. You're gonna go practice with that team, and then it got time to play Little League. Well, all the coaches wanted me on their team because I've been practicing with every team that practiced there. And I remember I was on First Aggie Bank. Coach Jones Abella was the coach, and he told my dad, "Hey, maybe I can get him on my team." And he was friends with my dad. So if you're a coach,
Yeah, let's go. Stacking the teams.
And we
even
sucked.
back then.
We sucked though. So I
Unbelievable.
learned to be a very gracious loser at an early age. Yeah.
Those humble beginnings are good things.
You have to learn to win, but you also have to learn to lose.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want you to know, and this is a big part of our story here, is that's exactly why your picture is up there, is that we hope that these kids walk through there, and we are going to send the kids, and we want that connection. That connection is huge for our town, and it's huge for our youth going forward. So as humbled as you are, you deserve every single bit of it, and we hope that's motivation for kids going forward.
I look at it as, hey, to the kids and coaching and talking to the kids, I always say, look, if I can do this and I get to the big leagues, so can you. Because really the moral of the story is, I wasn't really that good.
Yeah, you worked your ass off.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
I was the most talented guy. I played with guys in high school that had way more talent than me.
Yeah.
I played with guys in college that had more talent than I could dream of having, not to mention the minor leagues.
Right.
But I wanted it more than they did. I dedicated my entire life. Like I said before, I look back on it going, what was wrong with me?
Wow.
But I was so focused and just so dedicated to the sport and to myself. And I always say there's three people that pushed me to be the best that I could be every day. And it was, well, three things, not three people, but three things: the fear of failure,
Yeah.
and then I didn't want to let down all the people that supported me, and the fans once I got to the professional level.
Sure.
But then I wanted to prove wrong all the people that said I couldn't do it. Because there's a lot of people in this town who are like, that kid will never make shit
Right.
of himself, but hey, I'll get you down.
You'll end up in the middle like everybody else,
Yeah.
and you come in, and that's
Oh, yeah.
that.
So
I
that's-
find that to be a common thread for a lot of people coming through here, is that you can't make it from here.
Yeah.
But when you
Hey,
do,
you know what? You
you
can.
can. Well, I'm hoping another kid from
I always
Greenwich
tell,
Park
yeah,
does.
I always tell kids, I said, is it luck? What's luck? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
They combine. The more you prepare, the more lucky you're going to be. So work your ass off and good things can happen.
We're lucky to have you, man.
Thank you. You keep doing everything you're doing. You're doing awesome things too.
It's
a pleasure.
good stuff. It's a pleasure. So I'm Gary Campbell with the Dalton CRA Executive Hall of Fame Committee. I'm here with Hall of Famer Pat Bramer. Pat is a multi-sport athlete at Wacona Regional High School. Probably, in my estimation, one of the best athletes to walk the halls at Wacona Regional High School in soccer, basketball, and baseball. By the way, went to state championships in all three sports, and a state championship in basketball winner. So, Pat, congratulations. And secondly, how's it feel to kind of walk through now with all these different people? And we got Jeff Reardon down there, we got teams down there. A lot of teams, we were at 87 and the 86 girls team.
Right.
Those were good years.
Yeah.
Those are good years. What were some of the things that you remember from those years, just generally?
First of all, my freshman year, I remember the football team winning.
Yeah,
And it was always a big rivalry, the soccer team and the football team. Would we score more goals than the football team scored points? And obviously my freshman year, that didn't work out for the soccer team. The football team was pretty good. But it was great to see all those teams win when I was there. I mean, you had the football team, then you had the girls soccer team, and then we had the basketball team.
Yeah.
So just a lot of great athletes in the 4 years I was there.
I just remember it being a very competitive environment and everything
It was.
that we did,
Yeah.
which I think spurs on champions.
Yeah.
And when it's competitive throughout, it's unbelievable. What do you think about from childhood on up? Any stories that hit you, just funny, good stuff? And what do you think about that competitiveness kind of thing?
When I was a kid, my grandparents, I had a lot of cousins. My grandparents had 11 kids, so a lot of my cousins were older than me, so I was able to go to watch them play. My grandparents went to every game. They didn't miss any game. So I was able to travel with them, and I saw some of the great players, like the Kovacs, the Kayleys come through. So just watching them compete and knowing that someday, I'd be going to Wacona, and just, they had that winning attitude, and you knew you needed to win to be there and to play. So that was great.
That was cool. And some of the characters that you grew up with, I don't know if all this is PG-13, but I think for the most part, some of those characters on that basketball team, unbelievable. Timo Norris, Pat Duquette, I mean, Desi.
3D, Billy Zink.
Good stuff.
Yeah, remember?
He's happy to be in the Hall of Fame. He's excited. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Any favorite game from that whole season at all?
It was probably two favorite games with Western Mass and Monument game, and we ended up beating them by like 22. Because during the year we struggled against them, and we just had a great game at the Civic Center that day. And then when we made it and played Bartlett down at Assumption, that was a
nail biter.
Yeah, that was they had a big kid, they had a great guard that played, and I just remember that. The gym, the first time the kids could actually sit right underneath the hoop. Right. Just to hear that noise. We had a great fan bus down there.
That's huge.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Those are unbelievable memories of unbelievable, what I remember is togetherness
Yeah.
and just fighting tooth and nail, and that competitive spirit that you brought out,
Yeah.
I think was the key to everything that we did.
Yeah.
And we never gave up on anything.
No, I mean, I give Ed Ladley a lot of credit. I mean, down 24 points with, 4.5 to go, and then down 19 with like 3:20 to go. Most guys would have, at the state championship game, got cleared the bench and let kids play because you might not ever get there again.
Right.
He never gave up.
Right.
And I think that goes back to our practices. I mean, we had some of the best practices, with you guys.
Yeah.
Like we were talking before, gray versus white.
Yeah.
And you guys wanted to beat us every time, and sometimes you did, and then we didn't like the fact that you guys beat us, and it was like a war out there. It was great.
It is, and that's what makes champions.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, appreciate you being here. It's awesome to see a fellow Kona warrior, and obviously an athlete, and I know your family's doing well now. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame, Brain. You certainly deserve it, and I'm going to tell you, one of the best athletes to ever walk the halls of Kona Regional High School, Pat Bramer. Gary Campbell here, CRA Executive Committee for the Hall of Fame. I'm here with Hall of Famer Pat Duquette. Pat, multi-sport athlete at Wacona, football, basketball, baseball, I think even a little golf. Is that correct?
A little.
A little golf, a little golf. But just newly inducted, and what we're doing here is just talking about the history and what made it special for you to grow up here in this town, what made it special for you as your experience here in Dalton and then at Wacona, and then what have you carried from that forward to where you're at. So number one, what's a cool story you got from way back when?
Yeah, I mean, those are a lot of great questions, and I could be here a long time. I mean, quite honestly, I'm proud of a lot of things I've done, and I'm happy where I'm at, but this is one of the proudest personal moments I've had in my life. I grew up in this town, as you know, and I've always taken so much pride in growing up in this town, in succeeding in sports, playing on successful teams, and developing and continuing really important relationships with my teammates. So this was a great town to grow up in, great place to be a child, be a three-sport athlete, which was always promoted. Back then, I know today a lot of kids specialize, but I thought there was a lot of value in playing multiple sports. And I was fortunate. I was fortunate to grow up in this town and have a dad and mom that really encouraged me to play multiple sports. And I think I was fortunate too to play on a lot of winning teams with a lot of good players in the mid to late 80s. So you're my era, and we spent a lot of time together, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Pat Bramer just left, and he explained exactly that. He thought in the mid-'80s there, with the football, the girls' soccer, the basketball, the baseball, all going to state championships, all doing well. Do you think that competitiveness within, he even mentioned the parks, Pine Grove versus Greenridge versus Chamberlain. You remember the days of the park leaders. Do you think that environment really helped you as you grew as an athlete, now as a coach?
Well, it did for me because that's how I grew up. I mean, I was 2 blocks from Pine Grove Park, and I woke up and I went to the park. And I came home for lunch and I went back to the park. And I came home for dinner and I went back to the park. And well, we were playing on the courts. The collegians were playing on the baseball field, and I was going back and forth and watching guys like Turk Wendell and Rocky Daly and my brother Jim, Maury Callahan, Pipper. I mean, I remember all those guys, and I was just a kid playing basketball. But Pine Grove Park was a great way to expose me, and was great for my development because kids were out there playing every day. I think we were also fortunate, Gary. I mean, let's face it, the population of Dalton and Berkshire County was probably 2 times what it is now. So, with that is that the park environment's going to die a little bit. But I agree with Brain that you had that competitiveness between Pine Grove, and we call ourselves the Flats.
Yeah.
And we always brag. I'm looking at Jeff Reardon. Well, he grew up in the Flats. Dan Duquette's from the Flats. The Zinks are from the Flats. So we always felt like, and that's part of the whole Pine Grove Park mentality. But I know the Legion had their own neighborhood and South Street. you know, you don't have that park environment anymore. But I certainly think it was a great environment to grow up in, and it helped us develop as athletes.
Yeah, he's getting all competitive. I mean, now I'm a Chamberlain Park kid, so we took our lumps back then. You guys had the population.
Yeah.
And I think you took kids from Legion once in a while, and you took kids from Greenwich too, so you cheated a little bit.
Yeah,
Come on now.
yeah, we would have strategic sleepovers, and we made sure those kids were on our part of town. But
Good stuff, good stuff. Head Duquette, UMass Lowell, head basketball coach, great friend, state champion, one of the best three-sport athletes to walk through the halls of Wacona Regional High School. It's awesome to be with you, buddy.
great to see you,
Appreciate
Sue.
it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Gary Campbell with the CRA Executive Hall of Fame Committee. I'm here with Hall of Famer Dan Duquette, Major League General Manager, multi-sport athlete, Amherst College. Football and baseball?
Yeah, I played
Amherst
baseball
College?
and football at Amherst, but I was better in football than baseball.
That's amazing though, but to do that at a college level, and not to mention at a not bad school.
Well, one of the reasons I went there, I got accepted at Princeton, and Tom Callahan took me down there for my interview.
Really?
He and Jay Decker, my dad couldn't make it, so those guys were going down there. So Tommy took me down there, and I went to football practice, I went to baseball, and I wasn't sure I could play both baseball and football in the Ivy League.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up at Amherst.
You ended up at Amherst. So where did that come from? Let's talk about that. It's just a multi-sport thought of it, and to continuing on. I mean, I guess maybe I'm stuck in now where you really focus on one to get into the competitive college thing. Special ones still do it. Special ones still do it. But what made you think I'm not going to go to Princeton? I'm not going to play both. I want to play both and keep doing that.
Well, I had played them in high school, and it was important to me to be able to play both in college. I mean, that's kind of what made me tick. That's really what I wanted to do. Of course, I was going to get an education,
Right.
but I wanted to continue playing because I knew once it was over, it was over. And my dad always encouraged us to play as many sports as we could, and you know, I just wanted to keep playing.
Did one sport help the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think now the kids, they all specialize.
Yeah.
Do this sport, and you have to compete and move up.
To some degree. Absolutely.
Yeah, to some degree. But that was a different era where we were encouraged to play as many sports as we could, and the cross training makes a big difference. You know, my education at Amherst, my best professor was Jim Ossendarp, the football coach, because he taught in a Socratic method. He taught you how to make the calls. Like we made the calls during the game. The coaches didn't make the calls during the game.
Right.
He coached us during the week to make the calls during the game, and that was a great benefit.
Absolutely. Which benefited, I'm sure, as a GM later on, controlling some things here and there, you're making all the calls.
Coach Ossendarp used to say, Duke, I'm going to tell you, we got a bunch of guys in here going to be surgeons. He goes, you think they're going to be making the call in the operating room? Or you think they're going to call somebody else and ask them what to do? And I said, I got it, Coach.
Yeah.
He goes, you're going to be under pressure to make decisions? He goes, we're going to teach you how to make decisions. We're going to teach you a process to make decisions.
That's cool. Going back into Dalton, back into Wacona, you just mentioned you're a catcher for Jeff Reardon. That's a pretty good battery right there. I'm just thinking to myself as a little leaguer, I get Jeff Reardon there and Dan Duquette behind the plate. I said, we're not going to do well today. What was it about growing up in Dalton?
Well, Dalton was a great baseball town, great sports town.
Yeah.
And where we lived, we played ball all day. And Tiny Zink recruited the best players in the neighborhood to play for the Little League team. And my brother and I joined Jeff and his brothers, Richie and Stevie Zink, Paul Mooney. I mean, we had a good team, man. We had a good team, but we played ball all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, you heard Jeff talk about playing ball all the time. I mean, that's what we did.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of our time here in the flats, walking from Oak Street Extension, Park Circle Drive, over to the youth center in the wintertime, to the community house, and then to Pine Grove Park and Craneville School. Bobby Powell played ball there. Michael Rivers played ball there. Of course, Jimmy Rivers was our coach. I mean, there's just great baseball people that we had the opportunity to learn from. But I think today what I'm most proud of is it's a legacy of my dad to marry these two concepts of education, recreation, and sports in the community. He had a vision that you're able to implement about the importance of sports in the community and how it can build people and how it can build your community, and the dynamics of bringing those two together. I'm just so proud of that. I was so proud that my boys were here to see and hear that, because that was their grandfather's legacy.
There's no doubt the Duquette name is synonymous with excellence in athletics and academics here in Tacoma. It's not even close. You're talking about Jimmy Duquette's going to come up here in a minute. Pat Duquette, I just talked with. Yourself, obviously, and there are many more coming, that's for sure. I'm looking forward to young Dave coming up through the ranks and everything coming through, but I just want to say it is an absolute privilege to have you come back here along with everybody else.
I'm going to tell you something that you probably don't know. My dad's favorite student of all time was your dad.
Wow.
He worked with your dad to help him with reading. And that was one of the most fulfilling things that he ever did. He used to brag about your dad all the time. We would go and see your dad play at AIC. We would go there to see him play in the football game. My dad would take me, and we would go see Tommy O'Connor.
Yeah.
But your dad was my father's favorite student of all time.
It's a full circle thing. It is corny, cool.
Yeah, but there's something about the great tradition of sports, and the fact I played for your dad as a coach. He coached at Wacona. I had the great privilege of playing for him. I saw him. Your grandfather Vern, he came and helped us at the house for many years.
Get those pipes going.
Yep. And it's just been a great relationship. But my dad bragged about your dad and put him forward as a role model for us growing up. And that's all true stuff, good stuff.
It is. And you can't make this junk up at all. It is cool. Well, with everything that's going on now, it is truly hope that the springboards other kids, other people, a next generation, no matter who it is, from the Flats or from Chamberlain Park, or anywhere else. Had to put that plug in. But we have a great town, and we have a great legacy, and we have a great future.
Yeah, you have a great future. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Our neighbor growing up was Mike Cady.
Yep.
And Mike Cady played on that championship team. He was an infielder that your dad played on that went to the Western Mass Finals. And Mike Cady taught us how to play baseball and taught us how to play football. And in baseball, in the summertime, we would be the Baltimore Orioles facing the Boston Red Sox. And Mike would pitch to us. My brother Dennis would be one team, the Red Sox. We had to imitate all their hitters. And then I would be the other team. And invariably, I was the Orioles, right?
Yeah.
And what a great fulfillment for me, right? I ended up being GM of both those ball clubs.
Unbelievable.
And it's like, I tell people that, well, what did you do growing up? I said, well, we mimicked the batting styles of all the guys in the 67, 68 Red Sox.
Yeah.
And then the Orioles, they had Mark Belanger.
Yeah, that's good.
And I used to deliver his newspaper. He lived over on, with Dee Apple. He lived over on Pine Street. I used to deliver his newspaper. And we would imitate the batting styles of Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson. Of course, Belanger played with those guys. Boog Powell. Boog Powell. Where do you think Bobby Powell got his nickname? Boog Powell, from the great Oriole player. And then we, of course, the Red Sox, we would imitate Yastrzemski, George Scott, Joe Foy, Tony C, Tony Canigliaro.
Yeah.
And that's what we did all day. We played wiffle ball, we played tennis ball, and tried to grow up and be like those guys.
I think that manipulation of the game that you did too, so valuable. We talk about as coaches now, coaching robots, almost overcoaching them now. And now, but because they don't maybe have the skills that you had or the prior generation that the Parks had, do you see that at all with people, that they don't have those manipulation skills?
Well, I learned a lot of my skills right here at Pine Grove Park, right? I learned how to pick the best players for my team. I learned how to identify the best pitchers. Because we had some good ones. Jeff Reardon was a great pitcher, and he's in the Hall of Fame. But Jerry Erb got drafted. Chris Kirby got drafted. Glennie Campbell was a great pitcher. But I learned the skills that I took for my livelihood. Growing up here, learning from Craig and Jimmy Crozier, from Mike Cady, from Gary Campbell. And I was a bat boy in that 1960-19 team. Those are the guys I looked up. Franny Morawski, Harry Hume, Gino Quirk, John Quirk, Michael Fox. I mean, all terrific role models, guys that I wanted to grow up and be like. Gritty ball players, smart. Jimmy Rivers, a great coach. Pete Simony, terrific coach. I'm going to tell you a quick story. We brought up a catcher by the name of Caleb Joseph to the big leagues. And he improved his throwing in the big leagues. So I went down and I asked Buck Showalter, the manager. I said, Buck, what did you guys do to help Caleb Joseph improve his throwing out runners at second base, improve his pop times from catching the ball to releasing it and getting to second base? He said, well, we do this proprietary thing where we quicken up their feet and they move their feet while the ball is coming from the pitcher. He goes, the other clubs, they ask me about it all the time. I said, oh, really? I said, Pete Simony taught me that when I was the catcher on the JV team at Waukegan High School.
Isn't that new?
I said, oh, did you do the drill where you go around in a circle and you shift your feet and throw to the other catcher and you just go around in a circle in a dance?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, we do that drill too. I said, well, that proprietary drill I learned from Pete Simony and Jimmy Rivers as a freshman at Waukegan High School.
Wow.
So how about that?
That's a cool story. I've never heard that before.
There you
All
go.
from Dalton, Massachusetts.
There you go.
And that's why we're here tonight. I'd like to congratulate you and thank you. Thank you very much for just you've given back here before, and just with everything that has gone on here from your camp up there, countless of kids have played baseball up there and been allowed to play baseball up there and had great experiences. To be honest with you, one of them was my son, and growing up and playing the frozen ropes, playing Blackstone Valley, playing whoever came to town, invaluable experiences.
Yeah, but thank you, because this was a great community, and that was an opportunity to give back what I learned in the community to some of the other kids. And I don't know how you could grow up in a better community. My grandfather, Johnny Duquette, worked for Cranes for 50 years, right? This is still a Crane community.
Yes, it is.
And we're the beneficiaries.
That's awesome. Dan Duquette, Hall of Famer. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I'm in.
Yeah, so let's
I'm in.
plan on it, look at the schedule and figure it out, but I'm probably gonna be there unless it's a middle of the week or something.
Yeah.
I think it's usually it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Awesome stuff.
All right, let's do.
What do you call it? This is just a wrap. I'm going to shoot from the hip. And
Fire away.
This is good stuff. Gary Campbell, executive CRA Hall of Fame committee, sitting here with Hall of Famer Jim Duquette. Jim, welcome and congratulations.
All right, man, good to see you. You're doing a great job already.
This is good stuff. I drew the short straw, so this was it. No, this is great conversation. I call this corny. Great. This is
Very good,
this is
very
awesome for our community and everything. I want to ask you plain and simple. Share a story for you as a three-sport athlete coming up through here. Now general manager, now involved in Major League Baseball still. And I'm going to flat out say an unbelievable, successful academic, athletic family. It's unbelievable. What was it like for you here, Pine Grove Park? Growing up a Warrior, what stands out most in your mind?
Pine Grove Park is in Craneville, and mostly those two places that was the neighborhood. We were living over in that area, and when we needed a place to play, because we had all sorts of kids in our neighborhood, when we were playing outside and it was not organized, we were organizing ourselves. Those were the two parks, and Pine Grove was the main one because it was so close to our house. And and it wasn't just I played soccer, basketball, and baseball. We played any sport you could drum up. You were playing there, and just the way the parks were organized, it was very loose. But you could go there, and there would be there'd be a craft on a particular day. There'd be a sport in the summertime. It was just that involvement. It was people that lived in that area, kids that lived in that area, and so And we played a lot of baseball. Even, we ended up playing, many sports. But baseball was the one that we played a lot of. Of course, they had basketball camps there. They had basketball leagues there. I mean, there was so much going on. It was very similar. It was the summertime operation for the Dalton CRA and the DYC. So you wanted to see what was going on in the summertime, you went over to Pine Grove usually, or any of the other parks in the area.
Right. The common thread seems to be a competitiveness from those things. And it didn't matter if it was wiffle ball, caroms, anything else.
Street hockey, backyard hockey.
It didn't, what do you think spurred that on? Was it just that exact thing of so many good athletes in one spot, or was it set up that way such that,
it's like, all right, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
I really feel like because there was a organization or looseness to the town sports, that fostered involvement. And as you know now in your current role, when you play, the more you play, the better you get, right? And the more you were participated in that stuff, the better that you got. And it was just the movements and athleticism. I think that part of it, I look back at some of the things, whether it was high school athleticism or college, playing in college, basketball and baseball, it all was rooted in what we did at Pine Grove Park at age 7, 8, 9, as long as I can remember, playing all those games, playing the competitiveness, playing to try to win. But here's the thing that I always loved about it was, all right, you play to win, and then when you lost, you're like, all right, let's go play again. Let's do another. Let's go. We just played our 8th wiffle ball game. It's time to go home for dinner.
And if you keep doing that, you're gonna go do something else.
All right, hey, tomorrow we're gonna. That's right. Tomorrow we're gonna play street hockey.
Square or something.
Right.
Exactly.
That was that type of stuff, and the town fostered it. Growing up, you didn't really appreciate it, you didn't know it, but now when you look back, you go, wow, that was something special. And even driving up here today, whenever I drive up here, I go up here 3 times or 4 times a year. You go, and you don't realize how much you miss it until you actually have been away, and then you come back. You go, wow, this is just such a unique place, and there's so many people that still have stayed here, understandably, and you always love returning to your roots.
Absolutely. As you talk about that, and it's even set up for that, as you were there as a young person, were there older people than you that you looked up to and said, I want to do that, and I want to be like that, or better than that?
Sure. Well, listen, if you go through some of the, Richie Zink, who was playing football, or it was, my cousin and Jeff Reardon and Jerry Erb, the guys who came through on the baseball side, because I was bat boy for some of those teams. I was a 6th and 7th grader. Those teams went on to, Tim Zink pitching and guys like that would come through, and so they were the guys that you emulated. John Kovacs, one of the the athletes now, and the basketball side. Rick and I both played together, and we kind of came in his shadow, and so they pushed us to be better, right? So those type of guys. I'm trying to think on the soccer side. The soccer side, it was also John Kovacs, the Fens, right? So that group of guys. But there's that underlying basketball, football that kind of the town rallied around. That's still strong now. As long as I could remember, that was probably in the early mid '70s, late '70s. And I still remember that championship basketball team that John Kovacs was part of, and Chipper Fenn and Brophy. They went on to the state semifinals, and you're listening to it on the radio. Like, it was a community thing now, right? There was the fire truck escort after they won Western Mass, and I think that's the first one I remember. And it's followed ever since then.
Ever since then,
like you can't win a championship and not have a fire truck escort in this town, right?
That's right.
It comes with the territory.
Everybody knows
Everyone knows what's going on.
That's it.
Whether you went to the game or not, they won, right?
That's absolutely cool.
It's cool.
What kind of those experiences have brought that kind of stuff to your professional life?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's face it. To be at the highest level of Major League Baseball, what have you drawn to help you there?
So I'll tell you, not just baseball. I don't want to limit it to, but Ed Ladley, of course, and Jim Rivers are part of the coaches here. Larry Moore on the soccer side. Your dad Gary. Just go through Pete Simony, who passed away too young. All of those coaches kind of coming up all the way through. Boog Powell was a coach of mine in back in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. The lessons that we learned then I carry with me what a good coach is, whether it's not necessarily X's and O's like you would expect, but how to motivate, right, which is so critical now. But motivating, having a plan, a practice plan, and preparation for the preparation part was actually more important than the game.
Absolutely.
And so you learn that, you learn what was good and what wasn't, and how to win, and that translates to the professional level. You know, it really does. And one of my favorite jobs in baseball was overseeing minor leagues, player development, because you didn't have to worry about winning and losing necessarily, even though that was a big part of it. You could worry about the development and who the coaches were and who the good teachers were. And it even goes into the teaching at Wacona, like what makes a good teacher. That translates into what is a good coach at the professional level. So, you know, a lot of the coaches that would here, if you brought them into a professional area, they could have easily coached at that level.
Yeah.
They just chose that this was their calling.
Sure.
So I always really appreciated that kind of background that I learned as a player coming through it, and then I tried to kind of copy that or emulate it in the professional ranks.
Yeah, take that to another level. And you certainly have. I mean, I'm in awe of just this little town producing unbelievable talent in so many different fields.
Right.
Baseball clearly is at the forefront.
Sure.
But it's, like you said, the teachers, the engineers, it doesn't matter down the line. And Jimmy Duquette's story, much like all the stories here in Dalton, competitiveness, family, togetherness, it is our story, and I appreciate you coming back.
Hi, man. Always good to see you. Thanks for having me back.
Jim Duquette. Gary Campbell here, Executive CRA Hall of Fame Committee member, here with Ryan Dowling. We have an interesting slant on all our Hall of Famers here, and this one with the basketball program and Coach Ed Ladley. And Ryan, you were a ball boy in the early 90s, correct?
Correct.
Basketball ball boy.
Yeah.
How did you get that position, by the way? Were you anointed that?
Yeah,
How did that happen?
I was fortunate enough to be, I'm the grandson of Jim Rivers, fellow inductee, Joanne Dowling. So through just my mother being colleagues of Ed, my older brother Connor, and I, in 3rd and 5th grade, got to be the ball boys for the varsity basketball team, which was just, great.
So the education of a 3rd grade ball boy at the Wacona basketball program with Ed Ladley. Invaluable, correct?
Correct. Both on the court, but especially as a 9-year-old boy in the locker room at halftime. And what I remember most about those locker room speeches was just his variety of animal feces terms that he used to describe various types of play on the court, off the court. And in retrospect, as an adult, it's just absolutely phenomenal to me that he used every single type of shit in a very specific way. So chicken shit was when a player was not doing their job appropriately.
Sure.
Bullshit was a bad call by the ref, and horse shit was just when everything was a mess.
So the degrees of poop were very important in this. I see it.
And for the first 2 halftimes as a 3rd grade boy, I was just frozen with a water bottle in my hand with a bunch of thirsty players, and with my older brother saying, "No, it's okay. He's not angry. Just go give him water. He's not really angry."
Yeah.
And I remember at the end of every halftime, Coach Ladley would calm down, and he'd and end of every halftime, end of every game, he would thank my brother and I, and years later I was fortunate enough to have Coach Kovacs, both Coach Kovacses, as junior varsity and varsity soccer. So
sure.
I grew up through the system.
Through the ranks, and that's for sure. How about your Hall of Fame grandfather, Coach Rivers? Which one are some of your memories of him?
I have memories of him going even back when my earliest memories of him is
stories that you've heard.
I remember when he was a guidance counselor, and I was probably early single digits, going to Wacona as a probably kindergartner, going to visit him, going to see him after school at practices. I never played ball through baseball through high school. My brothers did. but I remember just playing his level of coaching and love for the game, whether it was his varsity players or coaching me in the backyard wiffle ball, was always the same.
Yeah. It was clear that what we've heard and what we know about Coach Rivers was simply this: family, tradition, honor amongst everybody, and just a work ethic that was second to none. And clearly it's instilled in many people here today. So we appreciate your grandfather, and we appreciate also your stories of a third grade education at Wacona Regional High School as a basketball ball boy, Ryan Dowling. Gary Campbell here with fellow member of the Executive CRA Hall of Fame Committee, Joanne Dowling. We're here to talk many stories, and first of all, congratulations back and forth. This is pretty cool.
It's very cool. It really is better than I could have ever imagined 6 months ago.
I'm so proud to see everybody that's come up and talked and has really great things to say about this community and about this whole event. So shout out to Dustin Belcher, and shout out to Pat West, Joanne and I, and Jackie McLaughlin. We're along for the ride, pretty much.
Pretty much,
yeah.
Right? Those two wanted to say it was a team effort, but they were kind of the captains of the team.
Yeah, I'd say that. So we're excited. Joanne's father, Coach Rivers, Jim Rivers, put into the Hall of Fame, deservedly so, and a great career at Wacona, not just as a coach, but as a guidance counselor, and affected so many people. My father speaks highly of his influence in athletics and academics. What are your recollections, and what do you think?
Well, it's
How's
interesting.
it hitting you right now?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was interesting to me talking to people, like I talked to Tom Callahan, and Tom said, you know, I nominated your dad as a player, as an athlete, because he remembers him from at Dalton High being an athlete. And it was interesting because with my kids, when growing up, they would talk to him about baseball, and he would, you know, come to their games. And actually, he ended up coaching with me in Dalton Little League, coaching some of my kids when we were going through. He'd come to and help work with my pitchers and stuff. And so he was, you know, he always was interested in the game. And my guys and his other grandchildren would say to him, you know, he was always bothering them about, you know, always bugging them and saying, you know, you guys got to run faster. You're slow. You're always so slow. And they would say, you know, were you really fast, Grandpa? Were you always really fast? And he said, yeah. He said, I was pretty fast. And they said, and he would get on them for not stealing enough bases. And they'd say, you know, did you steal a lot of bases? And he said, well, I didn't ever have to steal second because I hit a lot of doubles. So
that's a lot.
I mean, he would get them like that, you know. But the other story I'd like to tell about my father was, of course, growing up, we went to tons of baseball games, and the story is told to me that because I don't remember it, I was probably 5 or 6 at the time, and we were at a JV baseball game when my father was first coaching JVs at Wacona, and the field that still is there for now, anyways. And out in right field is where the rock is that kids always play around and still play around today at football games. We would play there, and it's told to me that one day I was there playing, and a ball came rolling towards me, and I picked it up and tossed it to the boy in the uniform, and that boy turned around and threw it home and got somebody out at home from the other team. So I'm like the first girl to ever have an assist on a baseball team at Wacona, as the story is told. So, but I guess afterwards too, the crowd went crazy and said, "There's some little girl, she picked up the ball, it's interference." And they went to the boy that was playing right field and said, "Did somebody help you with, did somebody throw you the ball?" He was like, "Nope."
I can see your dad walking out too, going, "That's my girl."
No, actually, probably not, because he didn't want anybody to know that I had done it. But afterwards, afterwards,
got an ice cream or something.
Yeah, probably.
It's a heck of a play, right?
Yeah, right there.
That's it. Well, what do you think he would think of this? This Hall of Fame, this whole experience.
He was, he was Dalton through and through. He lived his whole life in Dalton. My mother is living her whole life in Dalton. He just thought it was the best place to grow up. He bemoaned the fact that I moved his grandchildren to Hinsdale, 2 miles away. He finally got over that. They turned out to be okay. Right, they turned out to be okay. But he just loved Wacona. He loved Dalton youth sports. he actually was a founding member of what is now known as the Benefit Association. I believe back then it was called a different name. I don't know if anybody really knows what it was called, but it's now the Dalton Benefit Association. So yeah, he's always been interested in.
So his fingerprints are all over this. 'Cause
Yeah,
many
and he coached football, and
so many athletes have mentioned his name all the way through. So there's clear influence through athletics, through the school. Dan Duquette just mentioned about the education and everything that.
I don't know if Jeff Reardon told this story or not, but I can remember clearly one night Jeff Reardon knocking on our door and coming to ask my sister out, and my father closing the door. And then opening it afterwards. But Jeff just said to me, he said, "Yeah, it wasn't a good idea to try to date the coach's daughter."
That's a no-no. That's in some kind of a handbook. So
yeah, don't date the coach's daughter. So,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great to sit down with Joanne Dowling, and it's been great to work with you. And,
yeah, it's been great. I'm looking forward to maybe after about a month's rest, we'll get started on the next one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This will continue to grow, and more stories to come. Good stuff. Thank you very much, Joanne Dowling, on behalf of her father, Coach Jim Rivers, Hall of Famer. Thank you.
All right, very good.
And Gary Campbell here, Executive CRA Committee Member for the Hall of Fame. I am honored to be next to John and Rick Kovacs. I wanted to bring them in both at the same time to get the competitive spirit going. First of all, congratulations. Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
It is. It's awesome.
It's an honor to be there so many years.
Yeah, this is it.
Player and a coach.
I don't know about player, that's for sure. I don't know.
Back in the day.
Maybe CRA over 30, something
Sunday
like
morning.
that. Hey, the first thing that hits my mind when I look at you guys and I see something as a younger person that looked up to a lot of you guys in your generation, I think Steve Stangel, I think of guys like that I grew up with, but you guys as multi-sport athletes, and not only well, but at the top shelf well. I'm talking about the best of the best, obviously Hall of Famers. Where did your competitive drive, where did your, I don't know what it is, because I don't buy into the fact that it's all just, oh, that kid's talented, or that kid's just good. Something happened along the way for either one of you, both of you obviously, but in your estimation, where does that competitive drive come from?
I would say, pretty much at the park. When we were kids growing up, everyone went to the park. And there was no coaches, no referees, and we just mixed it up. We just played.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, when you went to the park, if there was older kids there, I'll do the example of your uncle, Glenn. We used to play summer league basketball at the park, and we would play with the older guys.
Yeah.
And the good thing was they had no mercy on us. They would be physical, play us tough, but that made us better. So I just throw out the park idea of just having a meeting at the park. You guys used to hang out at the DYC.
Yeah, well, you did the park in the summertime. The park leaders were there, and there was 40 of us there. Right at 9 o'clock in the morning when it opened. When they opened up, we went from one sport to another. We played wiffle ball. We played like we were playing in the World Series. We played basketball like we were playing in the NBA championship. And then we played football, playing for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then we just had that. We were playing against our best friends, but
we didn't care.
That's who we wanted to beat.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
You did the same thing.
There's the bragging rights to the next day.
He's your best friend, but I want to.
Right now, you might go.
Do this, you're not going to catch me,
Yeah.
And it wasn't if you didn't do well, you either played the game again or you changed the game right away. I don't care if it was caroms or foursquare.
Right.
We're going
Tetherball.
something else.
Jump to that.
Our father used to tell us, if you're not going to play the right way and hard, don't play at all. No matter what.
That's the other inspiration.
The old man.
Yeah, that's cool. That toughness, that grit, because I think of both of you, and I've been happy to say that I've competed against both of you, mainly in basketball and doing that. But you both have a grit. You have, it's fun now, but when you got in between the lines, it kind of changed a little bit. And I was like, well, I thought, and it was Mr. Kovacs for me at the time, until I was like, oh, that bastard, he's coming after me, and then being smooth about it too. But you're a nice after. I have to say, you were very, very good after dropping 30 on me. It was pretty good.
That's gentle.
Yes, you're kind.
We were friends afterwards.
How did that park then go from the park into your, I'm going to say careers, but certainly into your sports at the high school? Now the park completely unorganized, you manipulate the games, you do what you have to do to survive, and then win and exceed. How'd that influence you in high school to make you one of the best soccer players to ever walk the halls?
Best scorer.
Top scorer ever to walk the halls at Lacona Regional High School. 3 sport athletes, unbelievable stuff. Where did it just continuously go up, or was there another level that you hit because of the parks?
Well,
or was it something else?
I think it was just your own personal drive, because I would watch TV sports. As soon as it was over, I would go to the park. I would practice being Walt Frazier.
Yeah.
Or I would go juggle 100 times.
Yeah.
By myself. I watched you make your own soccer goal in the backyard and just kick, kick, kick. That's why he's the best scorer. Because he made his own soccer and he would just do it by himself. I watched my daughter do that. Juggle, juggle, juggle. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
You put time into it because you just wanted to. And you wanted to perfect something.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had a nickel for every shot I took at the park.
Yeah, right.
A nickel for every juggle I did.
That was Dalton back then, you know. It was, you ride your bike and you meet your buddies, and like you said, it was sports. Sports was everything, you know. That's what brought everybody together, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's old school, because all our parents were, you know, like my dad was an iron worker, and Mr. Dumas was, you know, working at the mill, and we all had that
blue collar
toughness.
Well, you know, we were a blue collar town.
You know?
And there was
Our
another,
dads were-
there's another
another
common
element.
thread that everybody has said has been Crane and Company, and cranes, and people worked hard, and then they came out and they played hard, and they did everything to the max of their abilities, and everything that they did was that.
But that's your thing, though. I think that the time is put on it by yourself. Is the thing that gets you over the top, because you could play with your buddies or whoever's at the park every day, but if you went out on your own, that's when I used to pretend to make the last second shot at the park a million times, and you could dream about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that kind of puts you on the next.
I threw the rubber ball against the front steps until the wood broke apart. And the old man had to fix them. He like,
you were a good shortstop. You made the best arm. You're short.
And that's it. And that's
you probably did it.
You know what? And what you're talking about, to me, I had an inferiority complex being at Chamberlain Park, because Pine Grove was where everybody was. But as I told Pat Duquette earlier, they all cheated. They had kids from Legion, they had kids from whatever, and Duke just said, well, they slept over that night. And I was like, oh, here we go. And it didn't matter what sport you're playing, but you're right. It's you wanted to be king of the park, you wanted to be king of the neighborhood, and you wanted to do that, but then you brought that into the schools. And I want to talk to you guys, late 70s, early 80s, and then I think into the success of unbelievable run, early 80s, and I think the 80s of having some really nice things going on, and all set up during that time frame. What do you remember most from that? 75, I think through, I'm going to say 88, 87, somewhere in there. I mean, that was the era. That was the time. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm 8.5 years younger than him, so
Yeah.
I was always the guy tagging, like you said, tag along, and I wanted to be like bro, and of course he killed me and everything, but still. still gave me that whatever.
You were a good goalie. I used to pepper you.
I probably would have been the best goalie, never
Yeah.
been a goal scorer. I mean, that was an
Yeah.
awesome goal.
Did you have any choice in that?
No.
That's the thing.
There was a set of bleachers.
Yeah.
No lie.
Yeah.
There was, at Pine Grove, there was a set of bleachers there.
Yeah.
And we would go out, especially Sunday nights, because
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
day was school. We didn't want to go to school. We didn't want to go to school. So Rick was in the bleachers, and I just peppered you. But you were up for the challenge. You were a little shit. You were cool. That's it.
No, we got editing stuff. This is
No,
great.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
it's, but you were awesome. You had that tenacity. Like you just wanted to get better. You wanted to stop the shots, and I had no mercy on you because
No.
you're just my little brother.
Didn't expect any.
No,
But just like the older generation,
And that's what, like when we
and that's what
coached
you
in the
grew from.
80s, that's what we
Yeah.
sort of, the kids were
Yeah.
bought into that concept, you
We were still
know?
blue collar
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, that whole feeling was strong then, 70s
Yeah.
into the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you guys know that this is one of the big things of this particular project is to tell that story, hopefully to relive that story with the next generation.
Yeah.
And however it morphs and however it goes, whether it's Pine Grove, maybe it's an indoor thing, in a new school or something like that, but certainly those stories are going to be told. How about now, clearly competition within the family, wanting to get better, older brother, younger brother, that kind of stuff. How about within your own class and within your own teammates, that's a person that made you rise? I think of friends maybe, I think of,
Chipper.
I think of
Chipper
people,
was,
yeah,
because he was so hard nosed.
yeah,
He was
Yeah.
quality.
yeah, people
Guys like
that.
that, your classmates, and your best buddies. And you were in groups, and then there was, you threw everything to the side once, to your point. When you started playing, you didn't care if you were friends. You
Yeah.
just went at it.
Yeah,
Chipper had that extra. Well, number one, he was smarter than everybody, and he was just so damn competitive. But
So
we
you
were
know-
that way. We were that way. I mean, our class was that way academically too.
yeah,
We had a smart class. Tommy Brophy,
yeah,
Chipper Fenn, all those guys, they were just smart. Tommy Cooney, all those
Yeah.
guys, Chris Duke, they were all competitive, and they were just we were both competitive in the classroom and on the field.
yeah, it's good.
So it was kind of twofold.
That's cool.
Really.
That is.
It is.
And I think that seems to be an underlying thing. Rick, how about for you and your classes?
Well, it was actually Jimmy Duke, because he was
Yeah.
on the other side. of the
Yeah,
park.
yeah.
I was on the Carson Ave side, and he was at Pine Grove.
You guys even split that into half?
Yeah, well, like,
That's
you know,
the
I
first
get
time.
my squad together, he get his
That
squad
is
together,
cool.
and
That's
that's why,
phenomenal.
like, me and him, like, I was the point guard, and he was the shooting guard,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
and then soccer, I actually was the center half, he was the center forward, we were just playing together growing up, and we were both competitive against each other, which brought us to be good together as teammates, and then even in baseball, he was third base, I was shortstop. It was, you know, it's a good,
it's a good mix.
Yeah.
And this is exactly Dalton, and this is exactly the feeling of tonight in the Hall of Fame, and that is the competitiveness of Dalton, the tightness of Dalton, the family of Dalton that has created the history of Dalton. So, and Central Berkshire, I should add to that, certainly with that. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Still,
and
this is cool.
that's the only reason Pat Duquette became a good athlete. Because me and Jimmy brought him along. You make sure you get that.
Absolutely.
Because he talks, whatever.
Clearly.
We'd kill him in hoops.
The only reason
And-
why
and
we won the
then-
state championship was the
Yeah.
second team.
And then
The second team pushed it. Yeah.
He'd come over, can I play? Yeah. One of these days, maybe you'll be good enough.
He's not too shabby.
He didn't end up too bad.
No, not too bad. Not too bad. Ricky Kovacs, John Kovacs, Hall of Famers, great people, fabric of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And say what's up, top of your head. How's that? Okay, Gary Campbell here, Executive Committee of the CRA Hall of Fame Committee, sitting with Hall of Famer Abby West. Okay, at Hall of Famer, obviously all-time leading scorer and assist in soccer, but three-sport athlete. I want to ask for you, where did your competitiveness, your athleticism. A lot of people say people are born with talent. There's no doubt. Some people have talent. But then you get competitive. And when did you learn that you were, you know what, this is something I really thrive on? Whether it was on the pitch, whether it was any athletic endeavor.
Well, we didn't really do anything at home that wasn't competitive. Am I loud enough? All right. We didn't do anything that wasn't competitive, and I was the baby, so I had to live up to everyone else in the family. So yeah. So probably from a young age, my dad always coached us.
Yeah.
So I never got a break.
No. So from parents to your older sister Mal, to your older sister Kate, all the way through. Do you feel like being the youngest maybe helped you quite a bit there?
It might have. Yeah. Just trying to live up, or
Get beat on, or?
I got beat on a lot, and I got the brunt of all the coaching.
I love it.
Got yelled at the most.
I love it.
But it was good.
That is good. And then when you grow, you get into your youth sports and you get into everything. When did you realize, no, not bad, and I kind of really like this? Was it a part? Was it in youth leagues? Through the CRA, was it?
So the CRA used to let us play up. It was before they would let you play up. They would let us play up to the next level if it wasn't worth your while to play lower. So I'd play up a little bit, and I remember I was probably in 5th grade or something, and I couldn't understand why an 8th grader was on the field. I want to be on the field. I'm better than her. And my dad and Chris Duquette just kept saying, You're too young to even be on this team. You can't go out there. And I sat on the side, and I was mad, and I pouted for the rest of the game. So I think it was probably from a young age that I wanted to be on the field and be part of it.
And then that 8th grader, were there any others that you kind of looked up to? Obviously, your sisters.
Katie,
and
always,
stuff.
I never got the chance to play with Molly, so she was just a little bit older.
Right.
So definitely Katie was always trying to just compete and be on the same level.
Right. And that drove
Even though she couldn't stand. Yeah, she couldn't stand.
That's awesome. Hopefully she's all right.
She's good. We're best friends.
That's cool. That's cool. And then when you get into high school and the pond or the ocean gets bigger, let's face it, now it's not within your own family, you're in school, Pittsfield High, whatever, you're traveling around all of Western Mass. What then really drove you at that point?
Well, it was nice. We grew up, we were on the same team. We played with the same kids all growing up. So we won states our 8th grade year. We were the MTOC state champs in our age group. So by the time we got to high school, it was just kind of continuing on from that success that we had, and then just a larger group of more talent. So it was just really nice joining the varsity team from there.
Absolutely. Any stories that you can remember or anything that stands out in your head? And it doesn't even have to be soccer related. There's been some funny stories coming up from other
TV
sports.
related? Probably the one that stands out the most. We were state co-champions. So my sophomore year, my sister's senior year, my dad was the coach, was the assistant coach with Burke, who's in the Hall of Fame. So we got all through the game. I scored. They tied it up. We played the whole rest of the game. I had a breakaway maybe with a minute left in the game, and we were on turf, so we used to practice in the parking lot at Wacona. All the teams that we played got to actually practice on turf and have a nice, they were ready for the game. We practiced in the parking lot.
Those rocks
we
and
made
potholes,
cars. All the cars had to move, and we had to just practice in the parking lot. That was our practice for the game. So we got all the way to the end of the game. I had a breakaway in the crown in the field. It was going in and hit that and just shifted just enough. We ended up, they don't do a penalty kick at the end of a state championship game. So we tied. We both got to take the trophy. Both teams got to take a victory lap around the field. Victory lap, just crying. We're all crying. We're just crying. We were supposed to be happy, but there was no victory in that. It was terrible. I ended up playing college with one of the girls that was on the other team, and she's like, "You were on that team? We cried the whole way home. Nobody was happy, but it was just that was the best time in my life. I loved playing for my dad all growing up, playing with my sister, playing with all those girls that we played with. It was the best experience.
Seems to be a common thread here.
It's a small family. You are family with the people. By the time you get to the older years, you've played with them, you know what they're going to do before they do it, whether it be basketball or anything else. And it was just, it was actually sad for me to move on to play in college. Because it's, you don't have any, you kind of are hoping that someone on the field does something bad. So
Right.
you get to go in, and
Right.
that's not how you want to feel at all. Yeah.
Not at all, not at all. And that is it. It's that competitiveness, it's that family thing, it's that tradition.
You want to play because you want to do well for the team. You know, you want to bring home a trophy just for the team.
Yeah.
It was a whole different experience.
Want to hear those fire trucks.
You want to go. Yes. Those fire trucks.
Great to spend a little time here with Abby West. I want to mention that, yes, high school's all-time leading goal scorer. And men and women, I have to shout out to Ricky Kovacs. I think the tiebreaker goes to Abby because she had the most assists of all time, Rick. So I want to make sure we get that on film
You
and
should
on
have
record.
there somewhere.